This is Lama Tantrapa. This is my first Facebook Live video broadcast. And today I wanted to talk to you about the energy of money, how to befriend it, and also how to be in the flow of it. Well, first of all, we talk about money as currency. Why? Because actually it has flow to it. It actually flows from one person to another, from one business or bank to another. And nowadays, 99% of this flow of money happens in the form of electronic transactions, which means the electrons are running up and down the wires, which is a pure energy exchange. Very few people actually have cash, and probably even fewer people write checks. So 99.9% of money transactions worldwide are happening in the form of electronic transactions. And what happens when electronic transactions occur? You don't feel richer, you don't feel poorer, you just simply exchange value. Now, money actually serves three functions in regard to values. First of all, it's a reflection of value. If something is valued at a high level, then obviously people are more willing to pay money for it. It's worth more. If something is not valued, then people don't pay money for it or don't pay as much. Now, if you have your own values in your life, then you also probably associate the value that you have in your consciousness with some degree of monetary value that you would ascribe to it. For example, what's your freedom worth to you? What is your relationships worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Now you may say, wait a moment, my freedom is priceless. I'm not going to sell my freedom for anything. Or my health is priceless. But guess what? You get sick, you seek medical attention, you pay money for that medical attention, don't you? When you go to a doctor, when you go to a hospital or clinic, and you ask for medical attention, what happens? Well, most likely, either you will pay money or somebody will pay money for you, such as the insurance company. When that happens, it is definitely an exchange of value. What we do in this particular case is we value our health. We value being healthier or being more capable. And essentially, there is some monetary sticker price associated with that. Most people don't like thinking about it this way, but it basically boils down to evaluating the value of your health. Now, most people don't really hardly ever evaluate their values. And this is one of the things that I do with my coaching clients. That's right. As the creator of Qigong coaching, I have worked with people who are my coaching clients. I don't just teach them Qigong, I actually coach them. And one of the aspects of the coaching methodology that I developed is reevaluation of values that people have. Most people have values in their lives that they never really considered whether or not they're really their authentic values. Many of those were just downloaded into their consciousness completely unconsciously when they were children or as they were growing up. For example, high school kids. They were indoctrinated in certain beliefs. They were indoctrinated in certain values according to their family or their religion or their education. And so they essentially became a depository of values of other people that often don't really serve anyone anymore. They're basically outmoded values that can and should be replaced with something else, something that is of higher value to the person. If you receive this type of coaching, you also develop your authentic value system, and you actually begin to associate certain values and recognize how important they are to you, or some of them may not be so important, and you just let them go. How does money come to that? Well, if you associate certain values with a certain currency or a certain amount of energy flow, then that becomes an expression of your value. So this is one of the things that money does. It actually expresses value or reflects value. Another thing that money also does, it stores value. Now, when there's inflation, obviously the storage of value is not working so well. For example, if the money that you saved up, for example, in the bank or under your mattress, starts getting devalued, then a year or two down the road, you actually end up with less money than you used to have. For example, when I lived in the former Soviet Union, they actually dropped the value of ruble tenfold. I didn't have much in the way of savings back then, but my parents did. And the savings virtually evaporated overnight, just because the money in that case did not work very well as the storage of value. So there may be some other alternative ways to store value, for example, in gold or silver bullion, or maybe you buy real estate property, or maybe you invest in something. So basically then we're talking about a greater storage of value. Now, some people nowadays actually are trying to invest in such things as Bitcoin or some alternative virtual currencies. They may or may not work as a storage of value. So you may actually be very, very careful if you want to store value in that type of virtual money. It does not necessarily have the ability to store value very well because it's not supported by any government. So it's not insured. Now, I don't want to say that you never should buy virtual currencies such as Bitcoin. You may be okay with it. Some people actually made a fair amount of money when they invested in Bitcoin. Just be forewarned that it may collapse or it may grow tenfold again. So this is essentially one of the things that we learn about money, that its value is kind of stretchable, and sometimes it's like a rubber band. It stretches and appears to be bigger, and then it snaps and becomes less. So we learn how to also not to put all the eggs in the same basket, so to speak. And we learn how to diversify our investments or how to diversify our activities. So, for example, some people dedicate their entire life to one and the same career. Well, it may or may not be the best choice. For example, many people practicing Qigong, and since we're doing this broadcast on Qigong Network group, I imagine you practice Qigong as well. People who practice Qigong often don't do this full time. It's basically like a secondary career, or maybe not even a career. Maybe people practice Qigong just for the sake of their own health and well-being. But it may become a career if it's actually addressed as such. If you actually start dedicating a serious amount of energy and effort and time to learning your Qigong skills so that you would be able to share those with other people, then obviously that would lead to your ability to generate some cash flow as a result of teaching or coaching other people in Qigong. Now, this may also expose you to a greater cash flow. So that's one of the ways that we learn about being in a flow of energy of money. is by recognizing that sometimes we may be in the flow of it, and sometimes we may not be in the flow, or even struggling against the flow. For example, struggling against the flow of the energy of money is like when you freak out when there is some correction in the investment market, and so you sell low. Investments are tanking, and you freak out, and you start selling low because you feel like it's scary and your investments may drop even further down. Well, in most cases, they go up and they go down, they fluctuate. And so if you sell low, you end up often losing a lot of money, just like when you're buying high. That's also, generally speaking, a bad idea when it comes to money. And so what we learn is how to develop the sense of timing and also orient ourselves in relation to the flow of the energy. We also learn how to relate to it energetically in the context of our relationships with other people. So, for example, we don't just perceive that we're selling people our services or our goods. We provide value to the people, either our customers or students or coaching clients. And what that does, it increases the value that the person received from you. And as the law of reciprocation suggests, they will reciprocate by paying you money. When you get paid for doing this kind of work, something magical happens. You actually receive a confirmation of the value of your investment of money, of time, of energy into your training. So the third thing that money also does, it basically validates something. It may validate, for example, that you made a good decision, or it may validate that you invested right, or maybe that the property that you bought is perceived as a more and more valuable property by other people. And so basically, this creates the sense of feedback. If you do something and you never get paid for that, well, the feedback essentially tells you that nobody is valuing what you're doing. If you are doing something and you actually get paid handsomely, that usually gives you the feedback that you're on the right track, or you're doing something that improves the quality of life of other people. So there are 4 main things that we can do in this regard. And I will dedicate a special video broadcast to these 4 things. But just to give you a brief example, the first thing is you can do that which people want. And basically, people buy what they want. If they don't want it, they don't buy it. In other words, the likelihood of you being able to sell something or be paid for something is a lot higher if you're offering something that the person wants. And they will obviously reciprocate by paying you money. It may be not only the person who wants something, it may be also a business or an organization or even a government that wants something. You essentially can offer them that which they want, and you get paid for that. Excellent. This is one of the easiest quadrants to look at. But when you consider that people sometimes, or quite often, need one thing but want another thing. So in other words, their needs and their wants aren't the same. That creates a paradox. They may even get what they wanted, but their needs aren't met. So you may also decide, I'm going to focus on providing people that which they need instead of that which they want. Most holistic healers and doctors and therapists do something of that nature. They basically provide that which people need. People need holistic healing. They need wellness, but they often don't want it. Basically, they're not motivated to seek out advice of a doctor or a healing professional if they're not in pain or if they're not suffering. So basically, that is a difficult job to do. And trust me, I've done plenty of that. I operated Portland Qigong Clinic for years. I know how it is, what it's like to be in a position of a holistic healing professional. Not that I don't do it anymore, but I learned how to find the point of intersection, kind of like a Venn diagram, where these two fields intersect, the field of what people want and another field of what people need. And if there is a point of intersection or some cross-reference between these fields, then focusing on that allows me to offer people what they want so that they will actually buy, and at the same time provide them that which they need so they will be able to benefit a great deal from it. Now, there are also two other options what we can do. And one thing is that we can do what we love doing. Often people say, it doesn't matter what people expect of you, it doesn't matter what you've been trained to do, just do what you love and the money will follow. Well, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So we will learn how to do that which you love in such a way that people actually would pay you for it. If you do something that people don't want, you may do that all day long, every day, 7 days a week. You won't get paid for it. So that is an important consideration to have in mind, that it's essential to understand how to find the point of cross-reference or intersections between these fields. For example, what you love doing as compared to what people would pay money for. If you do something that people would pay money for and you love doing that, you've got a dream job, my friend. I've got a dream job because that's exactly what I do. I love doing what I do and I get paid for that. So basically this is, by definition, the dream job. And the fourth quadrant that we'll go also a lot deeper into in our next video broadcast is dedicated to doing that which you're particularly good at. It doesn't always mean that you love doing that, but you may be particularly good at something that you develop certain skill at, or maybe you're just natural at. Either way, whether you are particularly good at something or you have a natural skill at something, you, again, may or may not get paid for doing that. Because, for example, I may be particularly good at doing Qigong, but if nobody wants to study with me, my Qigong skills are going to be for nothing, other than I will be benefiting myself. Obviously, many people would say, that's perfectly fine. That's why we want to study Qigong, so that we would be able to improve the quality of our life. But if it does not translate into a skill that other people would pay for, obviously you won't be able to be a Qigong professional. It's just like I have a friend, an old friend who used to be a professional piano player. He graduated from Juilliard School in New York. He was a concert piano player of world class, world acclaim. He traveled throughout Europe performing piano concerts, but he could not make his ends meet because obviously he had a pretty extravagant lifestyle on one hand. And on the other hand, he also just simply wasn't paid enough. So he was really good at it, but when you are a relatively young piano player, you still may not receive that much money for your performances. So, in other words, he decided that he was so fed up with it, he quit playing piano. I mean, he still plays, but not professionally. He actually went into the therapeutic or healing field and became one of the top healers that I know. Anyway, that's basically one of the quadrants also dedicated to what you are very good at. We will go over all of these four quadrants and we'll find a way to integrate them in a way that will provide you the best of all four worlds. So you will be able to find what you love doing, see how you can get good at it, understand what people want, and also be able to provide them what they need. This will create the optimal balance between understanding yourself and understanding other people, and being able to improve the quality of your own life as well as improve the quality of other people's lives. I hope that you enjoy what we've explored today, and we will also continue discussing the energy of money and how to befriend the energy of money so there is less animosity. As a piece of homework, let me just ask you a question. It's almost like a Zen koan, if you will. If money was a person, like Moneypenny, one of the characters in James Bond's movies. Let's say if the person was of the opposite sex, what would be a good description, the accurate description of your relationship with that person named Money? Please leave your comment below or send me a private message. I would love to hear from you. I would love to be able to support you in discovering how to be more in the flow of money and also how to be in the flow of energy in the universe in general. This is the big task that I've took upon myself, and I would love to support you in that. Being in the flow is the name of the game for me. I write books about it, I produce films about it, I produced the world #1 podcast on the subject matter called The Secrets of Qigong Masters. It's connected with the Qigong Network group. So if you haven't listened to or watched my podcast, please go to my website, qigongmasters.com. I look forward to seeing you there. Until then, namaste.